is just getting annoying. Like, how much have we talked about this type of situation in these 30 episodes? It needs to stop. I mean, that's just my thought on it. Why would you even try? You know you're going to get outed, especially in this day and age. You are going to get outed. Don't do something that will haunt you for the rest of your life.
What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It is time for the 30th episode of the Changeup here on the network, where we break down everything going on in Major League Baseball. You can find myself at First Report, FERST, and the podcast network at Off the Bench 12. And you can find my co-host, Bryanna Winner, at BWinner12. Bryanna, how you doing tonight?
I'm exhausted, but I'm ready to talk baseball.
Amen. Yeah, school's back in session for our favorite teacher here on the podcast. But yeah, it's taking a little bit of a toll. But it's nice to, end the day a little bit talking baseball.
Yeah, it just doesn't help when you have to wear a mask all day.
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
Unless you're eating.
Not ideal, unless I just walk around with a bag of chips, but I don't think you can get away with that as a teacher. So, but it is time, of course, to break down everything that's been going on in Major League Baseball. Plenty to get to as we've closed the book on the first month of the season. And, really, I would say maybe the biggest stories, at least of the week, it's been the injury bug that has hit a lot of players, but definitely two at the top for extended periods of time, especially Dustin May of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He will go under the knife and get Tommy John. So this year and probably next, let's be honest, is at least up in the air for Dustin May. As well, the Chicago White Sox will lose outfielder Luis Robert for about 4 months, 12 weeks to 16 weeks, however you want to break that down, with a hip injury. One other is you do see Jesus Luzardo was also hurt. That was a little more unorthodox. I think he broke his finger after a video game mishap. He says he bumped his finger on a desk, but as somebody who has played video games, I'm pretty sure he punched something after, maybe a bad gulag visit. But what are your thoughts, Bryanna, on mainly, look, Luzardo, that's unfortunate, but for May and Robert, these are almost season-ending injuries for two teams that really are we're expecting these two guys to help them along the way. What are your thoughts on the injury bugs?
Well, obviously, the Dodgers are struggling right now. They are not the number one team in baseball, which I'm pretty sure this podcast is very happy about. And they lost game 1 to the Cubs today, 7-1, which I feel good about. Although I don't think the Cubs are still going to do well this year, but I feel good about it. But the Dodgers are going to be able to bounce back. But it is going to be a tough road ahead. But they also still have so many pitchers on staff to fill Dustin May's spot. So the Dodgers pitching rotation will be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think the White Sox might get hit a little harder in this situation.
Which brings me to my point with
I apologize.
The White Sox, they already lost one outfielder due to injury, and that was during spring training. So they're spreading themselves really thin in the outfield, trying to keep up with the Royals at this point, who I think has surprised both of us at this point. And this injury is going to hurt. I don't know how well they're going to do. Hopefully they can catch up to those Royals, because I don't want the Royals to win that division.
Yeah, I personally, I think the Royals will kind of, maybe temper off a little bit and, maybe even out a little bit with the Twins. I don't think the Twins will be as bad as they've looked. I also don't think the Twins are going to win the division now, but I also don't think they'll, lose 95 games. That might even itself out with that. But the White Sox, a little bit harder hill to climb for the Dodgers. Obviously, as a Padre fan, I'm not going to sit here and give any sympathy to the Dodgers. I really, really couldn't care less, because this is a team that really has continued to bring in talent year after year. And you're right. This is a team with, when they get David Price back, can put him into the starting rotation. Tony Gonsolin, when he steps back, is almost just as nasty as Dustin May. And it's a situation where the Dodgers, like you said, struggling. And to both of our surprise, just as surprised as we are with the Royals, I think in the National League West, we'll get to the standings update here in a bit, but looking at the Giants, I don't think we expect the Dodgers and Padres to be tied for second place with this deep in the season, chasing the Giants of all teams. But very interesting to see that. And then, of course, yes, you just sent me that message, Christian Yelich on the IL. What are your thoughts there? Obviously, the Brewers and the Cardinals getting ready. Looks like that's going to be a bit of a two-team race in that division.
I mean, we knew it was really going to be a two-team race in that division, no matter what happened. Either way, the Cubs weren't going to be factor. Cardinals usually are. Brewers depends on the year. So, I mean, yes, it's going to hurt, but it's only like back issues, so he should not be out that long compared to players like Dustin May or Luis Robert. So he should be fine.
Yeah, it's a push for, early on, where you don't want to have to chase too many things late in the season. It is still early, but all these games do count. You don't want to head into September in a situation where you're X number of games back, knowing you left some on the table. But Yelich, get healthy, and then get ready down the stretch. And then especially, once again, compared to last year, the 10-day DL stints are not as devastating or crazy as they were last year, when you're talking about 1/6 of the year minimum, not this time around with only 10 days. So moving on to other bit of news. Unfortunately, something that's becoming a bit of, well, it's always been in a bit of a situation in baseball and everywhere around the world, but Roberto Alomar, the Hall of Famer and really very prevalent in Major League Baseball, at least is no longer amid sexual misconduct allegations. He has been fired from Major League Baseball as a consultant, and he has been fired from the Toronto Blue Jays as from his special assistant position. He was also working with the Hall of Fame. He has stepped down from that, pretty much persona non grata in Major League Baseball, obviously for good reason. Major League Baseball did their own internal investigation into the matter, found that at the very least, Roberto Alomar broke Major League Baseball's personal ethic rules, and he is gone from all capacities in Major League Baseball. His plaque in the Hall of Fame will remain in Cooperstown, however. But Bryanna, what are your thoughts on the Roberto Alomar issue?
This is just getting annoying. Like, how much have we talked about this type of situation in these 30 episodes? It needs to stop. I mean, that's just my thought on it. Why would you even try? You're going to get outed, especially in this day and age. You are going to get outed. Don't do something that will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And Roberto Alomar is, for me at least, like, he's a Hall of Famer. He was a great second baseman. But if you remember Roberto Alomar, as a person, at least what we saw on the baseball field, and this pales in comparison to what he's been alleged of doing in these sexual misconducts. And, look, if Major League Baseball has done an investigation and found at whatever they needed to find to get rid of him, there has to be, some substantiation to these claims. But Roberto Alomar may be best known, besides having a Hall of Fame career, for spitting on an umpire. I mean, look, I'm one of those people. Umpires, they struggle, and it's bad for the game. There are a lot of times where I think the umpires try to make themselves the center of attention, but That's ridiculous to spit on another human being. And once again, absolutely pales in comparison to what he has now been accused of. And it is unfortunate because, like you said, it seems like almost half of these episodes, maybe more. I'm probably being optimistic by saying half, but whether it was the New York Mets general manager, we are still waiting, as far as I know, on somewhat of a conclusion on the Mickey Callaway. I don't know if he's just gonna fade into the sunset and just kind of go away without any actual news about it. But it seems like every other episode, we are talking about something like this, and it's not like we're continually. This is, we talk about it, and then if it's newsworthy the next week, we would. But it's different people. It seems like every single week, or at least every single time we talk about an issue like this, and it is getting out of hand. And I will say this is not just a baseball problem. This is not just a sport problem. This is a human problem. It's out of control. Roberto Alomar gone at the very least. That's what he should get. And now it's in the authorities' hands. I'm not very privy of that situation, but hopefully justice will be done. And I don't think this will happen, but hopefully this will be the last time we talk about something like this. I can at least hope, right? But we move on to something not as serious, but something to talk about. It is, of course, Amir Garrett versus the Chicago Cubs. Look, I'm an old wrestling fan. This is the oldest storyline in the book. You got the good guy versus the villain. It's the pesky Cubs who, look, everybody kind of remembers from their run a couple years back, versus Amir Garrett, who is just the ultimate heel, screaming and yelling at people, throwing at people, pointing at heads. He gets a 7-game suspension. Javi Baez gets fined an undisclosed amount. You're a Cubs fan, and you've seen this kind of dance with Amir Garrett. What are your thoughts, Bryanna?
I mean, I wish I saw the video of this happening. I didn't see the video. I didn't even know this happened until I sent you the screenshot.
Oh, fair enough. Well, yeah, it was a situation where I think it goes back to last year. And once again, kind of what I was talking about with Amir Garrett being or 2 years ago, I'm not sure when it was, but being, somebody who throws inside, and then when, he hits you and you look back at him, he's going to say something, and that just generally flares up things. And Amir Garrett is somebody that is going to strike you out. He's going to fist pump. He really didn't or Rizzo, I should say, strikes out. And Amir Garrett is essentially screaming at Rizzo. I'm not a great lip reader, but he definitely dropped an F-bomb, maybe called him an F-bomb. And Rizzo, to his credit, is just kind of looking to the side. Like the Cubs are winning the game at the moment. Amir Garrett's coming in. He's had a bad year. And I guess this is the way he wants to pump himself up. Javi Baez, to his credit, comes out, protects his teammate. A whole lot of nothing, to be honest. It's kind of that quintessential baseball fight. Everyone kind of gets in each other's face. I always call their, discussing dinner plans. But Major League Baseball, going back to the Joe Kelly, we disagreed with that. But Major League Baseball has decided that if you incite anything, you will be suspended, similar to what Nick Castellanos did. Nick Castellanos, I don't think, did anything out of the ordinary other than be excited about something. Once again, not allowed anymore. But Amir Garrett, not exactly just excited. It's different when you get a little personal with people. Rizzo had history with Garrett as well. But just interesting stuff there. This NL Central never ceases to have a little fire in that division.
So it's kind of like a Browns Steelers type of situation.
Exactly. I would even go Steelers Ravens. Browns getting there, but those every time it seemed like the Steelers and Ravens played, maybe back in the Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu days, it was going to be some big hits, and it's the same thing. But I love to see it. Once again, you don't want to see anybody get hit in the head, like we saw with Bryce Harper. Unfortunately. Fortunately for him, he was okay. And scary situation, no intent there. There was another little saga to that as he hit the next guy. And I believe he was tossed out of the game after that, unfortunately. But really tough to see that. But Amir Garrett, look, this is a guy whose reputation is a big reason why he got 7 games here. If this was the first time we had seen anything like this from Amir Garrett, we're probably not even talking about a suspension in all honesty. But, like you said, this is kind of the Steelers rivalry or the Steelers Ravens or Steelers Browns. Now that what we see is that ugliness that everyone's kind of looking for a reason to fight in those situations.
Well, when I said Steelers and Browns, I thought about the helmet
definitely.
situation that had happened.
Yeah, definitely. But moving on to after 1 month, obviously the standings starting to take shape. Still really early. We're not talking any magic numbers here, anything crazy in that situation. But we will start in the National League East, which, look, it seems like anytime you put in a national in front of the East, whether it's in football or baseball, we obviously saw the NFC least struggle this year. The NL East is doing the same. The Washington Nationals currently lead the division at 12-12. Philadelphia 14-15, a half game back. The New York Mets 11-12, a half game back as well. Then you have the expected champions in the Atlanta Braves at 12-16. They are 2 games back. And the Miami Marlins, where we expect them to be, at 11-16. What I find kind of ironic about this division, obviously we see the Marlins in last place, despite being 11-16, one of the worst records in all of baseball, only 2.5 games out. They are the only team in this division with a positive run differential of +4. Everyone else is in the negatives. The NL East, I don't think it's going to end this badly, but we're definitely not going to see a top team, at least record-wise, come out of this division unless something really crazy happens. Maybe we see that run like we saw with the Nationals. But what are your thoughts so far early on in the National League East?
Well, at least it's not the worst record in the league. We'll get to that one. But, I mean, like you said, Braves we didn't see coming. Marlins, we kind of saw them toward the bottom. I don't think I said them at the bottom, but I knew they were going to be there. Nationals is kind of surprising me, only because they started off so horribly, and I think that's going to continue. I think that the Phillies and Mets are going to overtake Washington sooner or later. I mean, look, Washington still has some extra games to play based on the records. It's 14-15 and 12-12. Same thing with the Mets, 11-12. They still have to catch up game-wise. So we don't know what's going to happen in those doubleheaders. Kind of like what we saw with the Dodgers today.
Exactly.
Which, again, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, shortest effort ever for Clayton Kershaw. Only goes 1 inning. Very, very interesting there. Once again, no sympathy from this podcast to the Dodgers and their predicament. But we'll get to the West here in a minute. But moving to the Central, we just talked about those Cubs. They sit in 4th place, but at the top, we do have a tie with the Brewers and Cardinals. Both teams sit at 17-12. The Cincinnati Reds are 13-14. They sit in 3rd place. And the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're on a bit of a downturn. Talking about them in a minute when we talk about the Padres. But they are at a respectable 12-16 for the Pirates. Hey, still in last place, but better than we expected. Like you said, we will get to that worst team in all of baseball in a minute.
Oh, there's still one team worse in the National League in general.
Yes, there is. You are correct. And it's another team that I think we all expected to be right there with the Pirates.
Yeah, the worst team in the league, I don't think we expected them to be that bad.
No, definitely not. But yeah, for what are your thoughts on the National League Central? Once again, I think we kind of brought it up. Two-horse race is what it's looking like.
And we knew it was going to be a 2-horse race. We knew the Pittsburgh Pirates were not going to even compete this year. With the Cubs losing a lot of their core members, I knew that they weren't going to compete this year. I knew that considering they lost to the Pirates in the beginning, I knew they weren't going to do that well. So I kind of saw this coming. Cincinnati, getting there. But again, Milwaukee and St. Louis. Even though Milwaukee hasn't been part of those top 2 in the last few years because of the Cubs, we are seeing them improve so much. We don't know how that's going to work with Yelich being out now. So, I mean, all for the Brewers. I'm okay with them at first. Although I predicted the Cardinals, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a really fun race towards the end. And obviously with the way the schedule works out, these 3 other teams are really going to have a say in terms of who wins that division. Are they going to, who kind of plays spoiler late in the year? but obviously a long way to go there. Move out to the National League West. Obviously, we referenced it a little bit earlier. Not what we expected at the top. It is the San Francisco Giants with not only the best record in the National League West, but the best record in the National League and all of baseball.
A's.
Sorry?
A's.
Well, they're 18 and the Giants are 18 and 11. The A's are 18 and 12. So.
Okay. Either way, they're both at the top.
Yeah.
They're right behind each other.
Yeah. Win percentage wise, we'll put the Giants above the A's. But first place in the National League West. Then, of course, you have a tie with the teams we expected to be fighting it out, the Dodgers and Padres at 17 and 13. And then Arizona, a very competitive 15 and 13. And as you kind of stated earlier, at least foreshadowed, the worst team in the National League, the Colorado Rockies at 10 and 19. And as I speak right now, I believe they were down. They got roughed up really early on in this game. I don't know if that game ended. Yes, they lost 12-4 in their first game of that doubleheader. It looks like they only went 7 innings. But the Colorado Rockies, worst team in the league. We probably expected that. What are your thoughts? Surprising at the top for sure. Not really so surprising at the bottom, I'm sure.
Oh, we knew those two teams were going to be the bottom. Also, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, because you're frozen on my screen. Okay, so San Francisco Giants, we didn't see coming. We saw them at least to third, but there's still a lot of baseball to play. Even with Trevor May out, or I think I just said that wrong. Thank you. My brain is everywhere. Even with May out, the Dodgers will still come back from this. I know you want your team to beat the Dodgers in any way that they can, but I still think the Dodgers are going to take the West. It's just, again, there's a lot of time to go, and the fact that they're facing the Angels this week does not help. Your case, at least. So, I mean, the Giants are surprising, but I don't think they're going to stay there.
I agree. I think kind of similar to what we've seen with Kansas City. I think they'll kind of come back to the pack a little bit. Even with the Padres this past weekend, I'll get to them in a minute, but they did take 2 out of 3 from the Giants. Took the first 2, looked really good doing it. So looks like maybe a little bit more parity, but credit to the Giants. They've beaten the teams they've needed to beat. And, Exhibit A is, of course, those really, really bad Colorado Rockies. Moving to the American League East. And this is another surprise, I think, for both of us. But the resurgent Boston Red Sox have learned how to pitch. They are in first place. They are 17 and 12, leading the Toronto Blue Jays, those plucky youngsters, 14 and 13, 2 games behind the Red Sox. Tampa Bay is 15 and 15, 2.5 games back, as are the New York Yankees, also 2.5 games back. They're 14 and 14. And look, we expected the Orioles to be at the bottom of this division, but they are a respectable 14 and 15. I think that will get worse, but they're not going to be, maybe as one other team will get to here in the next division, maybe staring down 100, 105 losses early on. But definitely surprised to see Boston at the top myself personally. Bryanna, what are your thoughts on the American League East first month?
I mean, I thought it was going to be the Yankees at the top. But again, injuries and just they haven't been playing well. Last I saw, they were tied with the Astros. I don't like both teams, but I swear those Yankees better beat those Astros. So, I mean, yes, I'm surprised that Boston has made it back, but they did do a lot in this offseason to actually make it to where they are. So either way, I saw them in the top 3. I think that they're going to do really well. I just don't know if they're going to stay there.
Yeah, a big part of this division is the question mark of the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, look, you have a question mark when you have that many youngsters on the team, but their situation of where they're going to be playing. Currently, right now, they're playing in Dunedin. They're not going to be able to be playing in July and August in Dunedin, Florida. It's just the weather-wise won't work. We will get to minor league baseball returning. Therefore, the venue in Buffalo they had going on last year isn't as readily available as it was last year. So it'll be interesting to see if that does possibly derail that But I think Tampa Bay and the Yankees, despite being only 500 ball right now, I think they'll start to kind of go up a little bit. Really interesting. I think it's going to be any four of those teams, you can make a case for possibly winning the division. Is, the Red Sox certainly aren't running away with anything, but I really just hope everything out. And I mean, we'll say in Toronto, but we really mean out in Florida with that team. Hope that the reason they don't make the playoffs is because of what happens on the field and not the logistical downfalls of what's going on with, Major League Baseball's only Canadian team that's having to deal with not being able to. They really haven't been able to play in front of their home fans in now over a year and a half. So interesting to see how that goes. We move to the American League Central, where look, the Kansas City Royals still there, 16-11, leading the division. The Chicago White Sox are 15-12, a game back. I'll call them the surprising Cleveland Indians. They are 14-13, 2 games back. The very surprising Minnesota Twins, 11-16, 5 games back. And look, the worst team in baseball, that team that, I expected to not only be better, but maybe to be around 500, not even close. The Detroit Tigers are 8-21. We'll get to them in a bit, a little deeper, but they are 9 games back in the Central, a run differential of -62. Not looking good in Detroit, but then again, that's kind of what most people expected, even if I was not one of them. But Kansas City, that is a surprise to both of us and most people around all of baseball. Bryanna, what are your thoughts in the American League Central?
I mean, come on, those Royals, I don't think anyone saw coming. Chicago White Sox, I knew would be at the top. Minnesota, you saw them winning the division, and they have not done well since that postponement and since Simmons' COVID test came back positive. So I think once all of that is out of their system and they get more into a rhythm and momentum, they're going to start doing better. The Detroit Tigers are just a lost cause at this point.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
Yeah, and Cleveland, I kind of saw in 4th anyway. So they weren't going to be a factor for me.
Yeah, I now wonder, what do they do with Bieber? What do they do with some of those other players? Because look, there's not a whole lot of winning on the horizon for that ownership group, that team. They don't really think of it. I kind of look at it the same way. They're the National League version of the Colorado Rockies. Maybe they didn't pay the New York Mets millions of dollars to take Lindor, but they also didn't have a huge contract to trade along with Lindor like with Arenado. But that will be still the biggest blunder in a long time. Moving to the American League West. Bryanna, do you want me to give you the honors on this? This is definitely your jurisdiction.
I guess I'm not happy about it. So obviously Oakland A's, we talked about, has the best record in the American League. They are currently 18-12. Houston, unfortunately, is in second at 15-13. Seattle is surprising everybody, 16-14. My poor Angels, who have been struggling since that postponement, is 13-14. And the worst team in that division are the Texas Rangers, who we all saw coming.
Yeah, it's that's what we expected from the Rangers for sure. Seattle sticking around. I think they're going to start to, maybe slip up here and there. I expect your Angels to get a good week or two under their belts. I really do. I think they're going
to.
They
face the Dodgers this weekend.
Well, maybe not this week. And
the Astros.
Okay, yeah, maybe not that week either, but no, it's early enough. Once again, I think the Seattle will come back, and I think the Angels will, go up. I don't think it'll turn into a 2-horse race. I think the Angels can still get things under control if they can stay within 5 or 6 games before, we hit June. That might be okay for them, but I'm not ringing the panic bell just yet. Looking at those Angels.
But like I'm going to talk about with my segment, they have been struggling so bad that they had not even been winning that much recently.
Fair enough. And I think that's a perfect little segue into the winner's circle, of course, where we Bryanna breaks down everything going on there with the Angels. You could kind of hear the trepidation in her voice. before she got into it. But, look, it's not been great there in Anaheim, but we are going to dive into the winner's circle. Bryanna, it's all yours.
Okay, just letting you know you are still frozen on my screen.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. So like I said, 4th in the American League West. They moved down from 7th to 12th in the American League in general, which is not good. If you're slipping that fast within a week, something is wrong. And I know someone who is very wrong on this team and should be released very quickly. But I'll get to that in a second. They have lost 3 of their last 4 since the last week's podcast. So they lost on Friday to the Mariners. Heaney went 3 1/3 innings with 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Ohtani went 1 for 4 with a 3rd inning home run, and Trout went 2 for 4. On Saturday, they beat the Mariners. This is the only time they've won this series, but they also had 3 errors in this game, which they need to eliminate very quickly. Trout went 2 for 4. Rendon went 3 for 5. Both of them homered. Jared Walsh, the saving grace of this game. Walsh went 4 for 4. He homered in both the first and the second inning. And then you've got Griffin Canning, who pitched 5 1/3 with 3 hits, no earned runs, 2 strikeout. Oh, nope, that's supposed to be 2 walks and 9 strikeouts. I typed that wrong on my notes. Yesterday's game to the Mariners, Bundy went 0 for 3 Bundy is 0 for 3 in all 3 of his starts. He just can't get a break. And this is your ace that we were talking about. He can't get a break. Yes, it was only a 2-0 loss. So that in my book, that's a good loss for him. But you need your ace to start winning. And you are not frozen anymore. Bundy pitched 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Both of the runs were given up in the 4th and 5th inning. And an issue here, Ohtani and Trout both went 0 for 3. And last night's 7-3 loss against the Rays. Quintana, you need to be released. He started off so well. He pitched 3 2/3 innings, gave up 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, and had 9 strikeouts. He started off so well. And then the 3rd and 4th inning hit when all 5 of those runs came in. He has only lasted 17 combined innings in 5 starts and giving up 20 earned runs. If this is how you are in your first 5 appearances, you need to get moved to the bullpen. You should not be a starter. Yes, I know Ohtani was scratched from pitching that day because of an injury that was sustained on Sunday, but still, this should not be what your starter stats look like. Like I mentioned, Ohtani was scratched from his scheduled pitching start because he got hit in the elbow by a pitch on Monday. And no, yesterday was Monday. Okay, I'm sorry. The Mariners was Sunday. Yesterday was the Rays. I'm sorry. My mind is everywhere, and I didn't type this out until an hour ago. So Ohtani did have a 2-run home run in the 6th inning. Rendon homered in the 6th inning as well, but then he also left the game. In the 8th inning, after fouling a ball off of his left knee, he has already missed 12 games this season due to injury, and we really need him to start hitting. We really need him just to stay healthy and play. So they're going to finish this series with Tampa Bay on Thursday. Ohtani is probably going to be the pitcher tomorrow night. This weekend, they face the Dodgers in a 3-game series, followed by the Astros. So this is going to be another hard week for these Halos.
Yeah,
that's it for my winners circle.
That sounds pretty tough when you have the 2 of the top teams out west, and the Astros. We'll get to them. Kind of, they got off to a bit of a sluggish start, had their own COVID drama. Believe me, plenty of drama there in Houston, but COVID drama as well, and have kind of turned the corner. But look, the Angels can do some damage. They can go 3-3 in this little stretch. I think that might maybe build some confidence possibly, but it's going to be a little tough. and Bryanna will be back next week with the winner circle to let us know how it went down.
I don't think it's going to go well.
Spoiler alert there in that situation. But
it's my opinion. It's my
yeah,
winner.
I
It's
agree.
my segment, my opinion. It's not going to go well.
Definitely. But it is time now for my look at, of course, the Padres. It's been a little bit better than last week. Obviously, this is a team. When we were talking to you last week, it was a kind of an odd week for the Padres. They had Monday and Thursday off, and had a little 2-game set in Arizona before they came back during the weekend to face those San Francisco Giants that we talked about that were just such a surprise this year. Padres end up taking 2 out of 3 from those Giants. Ended up narrowly, well, they got beat up pretty bad on Sunday, but had a chance for the sweep on Sunday. Didn't get it done as they lost 7-1 on Sunday, but do win the series. Won last night, being Monday night, May 3rd. They took down the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that we talked about has been good, but they've also they've been better than expected, but they're on a bit of a downturn. They've lost 5 in a row. And look, tonight they got another opportunity to try and take down the Padres, but it's been tough sledding for them of late. In terms of the Padres, earlier today, it was announced that it was going to be Ryan Weathers to start tonight. And then about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, they walked that decision back, and will be Dinelson Lamet coming back as he tries to come back from his injury that sidelined him last year, most of the beginning of this year, and through 1 inning about 10 days ago, 12 days ago, ended up hurting himself again, put him on the IL for 10 days. He is back, and all of Padre fans are going to be holding our breaths more than likely from the first and second inning. The bottom of the first inning, we sure hope that bullpen is not firing up. Last night, the Monday night, when the Padres did win 2-0 over the Pirates, it was a bullpen day for them. This is a bullpen that has worked more than any team in baseball. Only the Tampa Bay Rays are close to them. And we all kind of know why the Tampa Bay Rays are there. It's the Kevin Cash way of doing things. It's been unfortunate for the Padres. It seems like every third or fourth start for these pitchers, it seems like we go into the third inning and we're asking questions of why the starter was pulled, what's wrong with him, is he injured? Yet nothing, no major injury news comes down. Obviously, Morahone, when he went down a couple weeks back, getting Tommy John, that was unfortunate. But everyone else just been put on the shelf for a couple days, told to kind of rest it up, and we'll see it again next week. Dinelson Lamet, his first start back after he was a little shaky, is coming tonight. We'll see how that goes. And speaking of the Padre bullpen, they've been worked heavily, but they've been really, really good. Last year, early in the season, that was a big negative for the Padres, was the bullpen. Unfortunate in those situations, but this year it's been the opposite. They've been really good, so much that the closer, Mark Melancon, who was signed in the offseason, won National League Reliever of the Month. He went 10 for 10 in his save opportunities, or at least, he went 9 for 9 in his save opportunities in April. Got a save last night, technically May, but he is 10 for 10 overall this season. The Padres are 7-3 in their last 10. As I spoke earlier, they are tied for second with the Dodgers in the National League West. An opportunity to, maybe overtake the Dodgers and then get a chance to overtake the Giants. And who knows, take advantage of the fact that the Dodgers are having injury problems. Padres have plenty of injury problems themselves, but if they can take advantage of their relative health compared to the Dodgers, that would be fantastic. But once again, don't want to sell the Giants short. Still work to do, but the Padres need to handle their business against the Pirates. They can get that done. And I think most Padre fans will be happy about that. I know myself personally, I was a little frustrated with the Padres and the way that they handled themselves against the Pirates, only splitting. They will be looking at the Giants next week, heading up to, this weekend, heading up to San Francisco after they get done with those Pirates, as I talked about. Finally, one thing, obviously, top prospect for the Padres, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, Mackenzie Gore. He will start in El Paso this week, as everyone kind of looks around and wonders if Chris Paddock, how long he can hold down that last rotation spot while Mackenzie Gore waits in the wings. But that's all I have for the Padres report. And now it is time for a 3 up and 3 down. We'll start first with our first up, and it is the St. Louis Cardinals. We talked a little bit about it earlier. This is a team that's gotten hot late. It got off to a bit of a slow start. They won 5 straight, 8 of their last 10. And right there with the Milwaukee Brewers, we do expect them to kind of slug it out all summer with them. But what are your thoughts on what we've seen really of the last, 5 or 6, 7 games with the St. Louis Cardinals?
I mean, I know Yadier Molina has been out, and I mean, they've been doing really well without him. I just wish he was playing because of my fantasy team. But, I mean, we knew that the Cardinals were going to be in the top of the division. We knew that they were going to do relatively well. It may not be against teams in the West, specifically Giants, Dodgers, and Padres, but they're going to do really well with the majority of the National League. So either way, I kind of saw this coming at one point or another. I'm just glad it's now, and they better keep up the way that they're going because I do see them winning that division.
Definitely. Another one of our down is going to be out in the National League East, a team personally I picked to win the whole darn thing. And they're floundering right now. Plenty of issues, especially news that Mike Soroka might not be available now until July. That's devastating for the Atlanta Braves. Of course, just swept this past weekend by the Toronto Blue Jays. But look, if you're looking on the bright side of the Braves, they're in a bad division. They're only 2 games out right now. That's something that they can feel at least somewhat thankful for. You still got to figure things out in terms of how you're going to get figured out, especially considering Ronald Acuna looks like he's on to have a career year, possible MVP candidate. But everyone else in the Braves needing to pick up the slack. What are your thoughts on the struggling Atlanta Braves?
I mean, like you said, they're in a really bad division, say the worst division this year, just like in football. The East was really bad. I don't see them staying down there for long. I think they're going to pick it up and start winning games. They just need that momentum to start. So I don't see them being a down really that long unless it's against teams in the West, like I said, with the Cardinals.
Yeah. It's going to be, like I said, I think take advantage of the fact that they're in a bad division, but you got to beat those teams and just they've lost plenty of games in their division. And look, as bad as they've gotten off to a start and maybe as much as they struggled, they should not be losing all 3 games or being swept by anybody, let alone the Toronto Blue Jays, who are a good team. But really, that was a big time surprise out there. But moving on to someone who's also making an MVP claim, it is our second up of the podcast. It is Byron Buxton out in Minnesota. This is a guy, 2nd overall pick out of high school, all the way back in 2012 of the Minnesota Twins. He is finally healthy. There were so many question marks about Byron Buxton. Is he a bust? What's going to happen? Yes, he can run fast, but can he swing the bat? Not only is he swinging the bat, hitting at a high average, he leads the league in slugging, and we already know what he can do on the base pass. Bryanna, what are your thoughts on Byron Buxton?
I mean, look, you also mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah.
These MVPs seem to be coming from teams that don't do well. I mean, look at Trout. Yes, we need help, and we need it in the pitching area, but Trout has been MVP multiple times on a team that was not even making playoffs. So Cunha and Buxton can do it. That just proves my point. But we didn't think that the Twins were going to struggle this bad. So, I mean, for him to take advantage of it, that's great. For him to just take advantage of the fact that his team is not doing great. Hey, let me try to start something like a rally, and he may not be starting those rallies, but he's getting himself noticed. And that I think is the main point here.
Definitely. And
especially
I
on
think
a team that bad.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we both agree both of these teams, the Braves and the Twins, are going to figure it out. Will it be enough? Who knows? But they're not going to be in fourth place the rest of the year in those divisions. And when these other teams, when the other players begin to hit on their respective teams, if these guys can keep it up, that's deadly for a lot of teams late in the year. You don't want to have to deal with a peaking Twins team in September in a possible one-game playoff or a big-time game in September, for a wild card berth. I'm looking at the Yankees or the Rays, who are kind of adrift here early on. Don't want to have to go in early up against, a team that right now, Byron Buxton, MVP candidate, and I think the rest of the league or the rest of the team is going to at least get back to above average hitting that we all expect them to be. Look, something that's been kind of an issue out in New York, not the Yankees injury problems, go across the or wherever, you got to go to Queens to look at the Mets and their drama. Look, we talked about the situation going all the way back to Carlos Beltran last year, getting fired before he even coached a game because of his involvement with the Astros sign stealing scandal, to this year, their general manager just going out in a ball of just absolute scumbagness, just a absolutely terrible human being being fired for his sexual misconduct. And then everything the Wilpons had done over the last 20 years, the ownership group of the New York Mets. And now just 29 days into, or at least 29 games into the Chili Davis, Tom Slater hitting coach experiment in New York, they have both been fired. Obviously, Chili Davis, a former major leaguer, Tom Slater, they were both fired after the Mets lost. Look, the Mets are 11-12 and certainly have their downfalls. I think when we all think about what goes on with the Mets and their bad hitting, it's about what's going on with Jacob deGrom. He might have some injury issues as he was scratched from tonight's start. We'll see how that goes with tomorrow's MRI. But for the Mets, a lot of issues offensively. I'll tell you this right now. You can fire the hitting coaches all you want, but let's look at who you traded for this offseason. The guy who got all the Mets fans super excited, Francisco Lindor. He's hitting 163. Okay? I know it's not all on him, but you can fire your hitting coaches all you want, but your superstars have to hit higher than 163. I know it'll take some time to get used to it, but Francisco Lindor is at the very least a 200 hitter. Even when he's struggling, he needs to be better than this. So there are plenty of finger pointing to go around. Bryanna, what are your thoughts of what we've seen early on out there in New York?
I mean, New York's just a mess, if you think about it this way. They also had a part in the Callaway situation because he was with the Mets before the Angels. So the Mets are just a mess. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
It's the New York
injuries, Mets. Hitting. Fire anybody who you want, but that's not going to help you.
It's a great point. Yeah, I didn't even. I shouldn't laugh. It's a very serious allegation.
I'm just laughing because your reaction to it when you forgot.
Well, the reason I was laughing, like I said, is because there are so many. It's like you try and pick the top. Any other organization that would be at the top.
I'm not going to forget the Callaway thing because he ended up coming to my team
because it is recency bias. But yeah, the Callaway thing, and if you read a lot of the articles, it was placated and it was helped along by the Mets organization. That new ownership group, a lot to deal with. I think their biggest concern right now, besides the hitting of Francisco Lindor and this and that, I think the biggest thing is the help of Jacob deGrom, because let's face it, if Jacob deGrom is out for an extended period of time, I don't care how bad this division is, the Mets are out of it. It's done. Lock the doors, put the children to bed. We'll see you next year for the Mets if that is the case. I don't want that to be the case because as much as I don't like the Mets, Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball, and it's not even close. But for the Mets, like you said, an absolute mess out there. One team that we were hoping, and early on was a bit of a mess, but now they make it onto the other side of this list, as they were a couple weeks ago, I believe, on the downside of this list. But it is the Houston Astros. They're a final up on this list. They've won 7 of 10 and are currently the only team in the American League West with a positive run differential. It's kind of crazy to me, with plus 32. They are 2 games behind the Oakland A's, who of course went on their 11 or 12 game win streak, have since cooled off a bit, but still have a 2-game lead. The Astros and A's early on look to be the contenders in that division. I know the Angels will want to say something about that, but Bryanna, look, when I was putting this list together, I didn't want to do it, but we got to be, journalistic integrity. I know you know all about that. The Astros, they got to get some doubt from us, whether they're banging on trash cans or not. But Bryanna, I'll pass it over to you while I go vomit.
I wish I could go do that. I mean, first with the Houston Astros playing the Yankees, the picture you posted on Facebook with the trash cans around their bodies, just all the signs, just tell you something about these Yankee fans. I mean, that tells you about fans all over the league at this point. But, I mean, you got to give it to the Astros. They did come back. I hate it. And I would wish the Angels were in that position, and I wish that they would get swept by the Angels this weekend. But I don't see it happening. I think the Astros are going to continue to win. Like I said earlier, last I saw, the Astro game was tied. Okay. 3-3. Is it still tied?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me check.
Oh, I thought you were looking. I'm pulling it up. I thought you were saying yes to looking. So that was why. Let's see. It's still tied top 6. Yep. So, I mean, there's not much else you can say about these trash can cheaters. So let's get off of them, please.
Definitely. I will say, for those Yankee fans, A for creativity, but F for execution, or maybe F for not execution, excuse me, F for self-awareness. Let's not forget that the New York Yankees were caught doing the exact same thing. They didn't win a World Series doing it. They weren't banging on trash cans, but they were doing the same thing in Yankee Stadium. Major League Baseball went well out of their way to cover it up and make sure, this was kind of 2 or 3 months after the Astros situation. It was right before 2020 spring training was going to get going. 2 or 3 weeks later, the pandemic would hit. So we kind of forgot about it. But I remember, look, the Yankees were doing the same thing. Most teams were. The Red Sox lost their manager for a year because of what was going on there as well. And his ties with the Astros, yes, but he had brought it with him to Boston. It was talked about there in their World Championship winning season, but it wasn't as prevalent but it just, for me, it's like, look, I understand the trash cans and things like that, but Yankee fans, you were cheating too. No one else really, and before the Astros came along and banged on trash cans, all of Major League Baseball fandom united in our hatred of the Yankees. So the Yankees now all of a sudden kind of being this, it's kind of like the bully who has been the bully this entire year, and a new kid transferred in who's a, more hated bully. And the first bully is a champion of the people. It doesn't sit well with me, but both of those teams, not big fans of. They're both cheaters in my books. Unfortunately, the Astros, they won a World Series by cheating, and that makes it a lot worse, but doesn't give the Yankee fans rights to dress up like Oscar the Grouch.
No, but it's funny.
100% execution, or at least creativity, A+. The Oscar the Grouch stirrups, fantastic. Absolutely love it. Just don't wear a Yankee hat while you're doing it. But that's just my opinion. Moving on to the final down. It is, of course, the worst team in baseball, the Detroit Tigers. They are Major League worst 8-21 with a negative 62 run differential. They are already 9 games back in a division that, it seemed at least, they could possibly fight it out with what we thought was going to be a mediocre Royals and Indians team. Nope, the Tigers are just as bad as it gets. They've lost 5 straight and 9 of their last 10.
And are losing.
Losing. Not looking good. Look, I will say the one thing about this team, I've been screaming it from the mountaintops really since we've done this podcast. Every time the Tigers have been brought up in our 30 podcast on the Changeup, the one thing I brought up, a ton of young talent coming up. Casey Mize, Turek Skubal, and Matt Manning, among others. Spencer Torkelson on the offensive side of things. Not helping the 2021 Detroit Tigers. They look like a terrible baseball team. Bryanna, your thoughts?
I mean, you basically just said it all. They're losing 8-3 at the moment to the Red Sox, who are one of the best teams in the American League. I will give them that. I didn't expect them to be as bad as the Pirates last year.
Yeah, I think if the Orioles would have started like this, if the Pirates would have started like this, I would have been more surprised. Rangers, thank you. Rockies, even though they're kind of there, don't get me wrong, those 2 extra wins aren't fooling me out there in Colorado. But 8-21, we're almost 30 games into the season, and you're not in double digits in wins yet. That's going to catch the eye. The Tigers, this is a franchise that had their glory run with Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander heydays. Never got it done to win a World Series, but they got an opportunity to get there. I think they ended up losing. I think it was the Cardinals, but 8-21, not going to get it done at all. And for them right now, it's about probably trying to, win as many games as possible. Is 70 games feasible for this team? I don't think so. They're probably going to lose 100 games plus again. Now, obviously, they didn't lose 100 games last year, but if it was a full season, who knows? Because this is just a bad baseball team. 8-21, really, really tough there. Did you want to add anything to the Tigers?
Not at all.
Not at all. Perfect.
There's no point in talking about it.
Exactly. Probably spent too much time on him as we have.
Okay, to be fair, we spent too much time on the Astros.
Yes. Maybe those last 2, the up and downs, the last 2 were the not so much fun situation, spent way too much time. But the last one, I will say we did a little bit of cheating, as it is not only Star Wars Day, of course, may the 4th be with you. Get my nerd hat on for a minute, but not only is it that, it is opening day for minor league baseball in and around the country. After almost 18 months of being shut down, a lot of players lost out on development last year. Not everyone was at training camp or the alternate site, whatever you want to say. And even before the coronavirus pandemic hit, minor league baseball was hanging on by a thread. A lot of teams did not make it through all of this. I will say, though, there are some really cool stories. One of the best and maybe the most famous independent teams, the St. Paul Saints, they are now playing AAA baseball. They will be the the Twins AAA affiliate because of obviously the close proximity to Minneapolis and St. Paul and other situations that weren't great. Look, one of at least back on the East Coast for me, the one team that I always knew, it was the Pawtucket Red Sox, the Paw Sox. They're in Worcester now. They have to move. And once again, living in San Diego, I know what it's like to lose a team. So the people of Pawtucket, they've been there for a very long time. A lot of teams lost their affiliation. A lot of teams just folded in general. It is sad, but the shakeup in minor league baseball is supposed to hopefully be better for the teams that made it through. Hopefully that is the case. But I did just want to throw that out there because, once again, after 18 months, minor league baseball will be back. And look, if you do live in those small cities, those small towns, minor league baseball is a lifeblood for a lot of those towns. And they're going to be really excited to get back at it.
I mean, being in Colorado Springs for 4 years, they lost theirs. They were originally part of the Rockies organization. Then they moved to the Brewers, and now they're just gone. So the closest minor league team is, I want to say, a AA, about a few hours away in Grand Junction.
Yeah.
So a lot of teams are losing their minor league teams, obviously, because last year didn't bring any money in. And they're trying to make each league smaller in a way. So then there's less money to pay. So, I mean, it just hurts that they're getting rid of these teams. I mean, I understand it. It doesn't mean I have to like it. And I definitely don't like it. But hey, minor league baseball's back.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, me and my buddies, we always talk, and I've never been up there. We got to go. Maybe this year isn't the best time to go, but the Lake Elsinore Storm up there, kind of in your area, your neck of the woods ish, north of me, I should say. But they're now I think they're in low A. They used to be high A. A lot of realignment, like you said, a lot of movement in terms of who's close and who isn't. But it's just nice to see minor league baseball returning, and for the players, not just the teams and the fans. Obviously, that's great, but for the players, an opportunity for them to go out and showcase their skills. We're really excited to see Mackenzie Gore in a competitive game. That isn't, we haven't seen that in, almost 2 years. Because, I don't really think spring training's a competitive game, anything that should be really thought about in that general sense. So final thoughts, Bryanna, on our 30th episode of The Changeup.
Bauer has already given up 1 run with runners on second and third, still in the bottom of the inning. Going back to the East, the Phillies are winning 6-1 over the Brewers. The Nationals are losing 6-0 to the Braves. So see, the Braves are going to start going up soon.
Yeah, I think the East, it will start to kind of right the ship there. Or who knows, maybe we'll see just kind of a 4-team kind of crazy race to 87 wins. Whoever gets 87 wins wins the division. But I do think the Braves will get the job done. Not a bad way to end the podcast by giving us an update on the Dodgers losing. I really can't think of anything better than a better way to end the podcast. So are the Astros losing by any chance?
No, it's still tied.
It's still tied. All right, darn it. I'm getting greedy. All right, folks. Well, thank you all so much for listening to The Changeup, presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. Once again, thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you all next week. Take care.